We live in a world where almost everything we could ever want is at our fingertips. Food arrives at our doors in minutes. We can buy clothes, gadgets, even a car, without leaving the couch. We have endless entertainment streaming 24/7, instant communication across the planet, and access to more information than all previous generations combined. And yet, with all this abundance, most people feel strangely empty, restless, dissatisfied, like something's missing. Think about it. When was the last time you felt completely content, with no nagging sense that you needed just a little bit more? More money, more recognition, more success, more love, more freedom. The truth is, human beings almost never reach that moment of pure satisfaction. The second we get what we want, we're already thinking about what comes next. We're wired to move the goalpost. This is not a new problem. Over 2,000 years ago, the Roman philosopher Seneca was wrestling with the same question. Why can't people just be content with what they have? He noticed that even the wealthiest Romans, men with golden palaces, fleets of servants, and treasures from every corner of the empire, were still unsatisfied. Their ambition kept pushing them toward more, while their peace of mind slipped further away. Seneca realized something profound. The problem isn't that humans don't have enough. The problem is that humans are designed to never feel like they have enough. It's like chasing the horizon. No matter how far you walk, it always stays out of reach. And here's the uncomfortable truth. We live in a time of abundance, unlike anything Seneca could have imagined. But our restlessness, our craving for more, has only intensified. If anything, modern life has amplified the very problem he warned about. So in this video, we're going to explore why humans will never be content, what Seneca had to say about it, and what, if anything, we can do to escape this endless cycle of dissatisfaction. Because maybe the real question isn't whether we can ever be satisfied. Maybe it's whether we can learn to find peace, even while knowing that part of us will always want more. At the core of this problem lies something ancient, something deeply wired into our biology: desire. Human beings are creatures of desire. From the moment we wake up to the moment we fall asleep, we're pulled in 1,000 different directions by wants, cravings, and ambitions. We want comfort. We want trust. We want security. We want excitement. We want love. We want recognition. But here's the thing. Desire is not designed to be satisfied. Desire is designed to keep us moving. Think about it. Thousands of years ago, when survival depended on hunting, gathering, and avoiding predators, humans couldn't afford to just be content. If an early human found enough food for today, that wasn't enough. They needed to keep searching for more, because tomorrow wasn't guaranteed. If they built a safe shelter, they still had to stay alert, because danger could strike at any moment. In other words, evolution programmed us to always be scanning for what's next. Satisfaction was dangerous. Contentment could mean death. So our brains evolved with a built-in trick: the reward system. When we pursue something, whether it's food, safety, or status, we feel anticipation, excitement, motivation. When we finally get it, we feel a burst of pleasure, but only for a short while. That feeling fades quickly, replaced by a new craving. And the cycle begins again. This is what psychologists today call the hedonic treadmill. No matter how much we achieve or acquire, our baseline happiness doesn't really rise. We adapt. The new car becomes normal. The promotion loses its thrill. The relationship that once felt magical becomes ordinary. And then we want the next thing, and the next, and the next. Seneca saw this long before modern science gave it a name. He warned that the more we chase desire, the more enslaved we become to it. He wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." That's a brutal truth. Poverty isn't always about what's in your bank account. It's about the mindset that no matter what you have, it isn't enough. To explain this, Seneca often used vivid metaphors. One of the most powerful is the image of drinking salt water. When you're thirsty and you drink salt water, it might feel like relief for a moment, but the more you drink, the thirstier you become, until it destroys you. Desire works the same way. We think fulfilling our cravings will finally bring peace. But instead, every fulfilled desire gives birth to new ones. Let's make it concrete. Imagine you're making $50,000 a year, and you tell yourself, if I could just make $100,000, I'd finally be comfortable. You work hard, you sacrifice, and eventually you get there. And for a few months, maybe a year, you feel accomplished. But soon, $100,000 doesn't feel like much anymore. Now you look at people making $200,000 and think, that's where I need to be. The same happens with material possessions. You buy a new phone, and it feels amazing. Faster, sleeker, more powerful. But within a year, it's just your phone. And now the new model is out. And suddenly your perfectly functional device feels outdated. Or take relationships. You dream of being with someone who will complete you, make life feel whole. But when you finally find that person, the reality of day-to-day life sets in. The magical mug fades, and you start noticing imperfections, and part of you begins to wonder, maybe there's someone even better out there. This is the tragedy of desire. It never ends. It can't end. Seneca understood that this constant reaching for more is what traps people in anxiety and dissatisfaction. He wrote that we spend our lives preparing to live, chasing after the next milestone, and never actually living in the present. And yet here's the paradox. Desire isn't all bad. Without it, humans might never have built civilizations, discovered medicine, or created art. The drive for more is part of what pushes us forward, but when left unchecked, it becomes a prison, an endless loop where we mistake more for better, and confuse accumulation with fulfillment. The Stoics believed that the key was not to eliminate desire completely. That's impossible. But to master it, to recognize that some desires are natural and necessary, while others are artificial traps that only lead to moody. For example, the desire for food, shelter, and companionship. That's natural. It keeps us alive and connected. But the desire for luxury, status, or infinite wealth, those are endless cravings that never deliver true satisfaction. Seneca argued that real freedom comes when we stop being slaves to these artificial desires. When we can look at what we have, however modest, and say, this is enough. But for most people, that's easier said than done. Because the human mind is always whispering, just a little more. Then you'll finally be happy. And that whisper never goes away. We don't just struggle with desire in isolation. Much of our restlessness comes from something even more corrosive: comparison. Human beings are deeply social creatures, and from the very beginning of our existence we've measured ourselves against others. Who has more food? Who has more strength? Who is admired? Who is respected? In the past, these comparisons may have been about survival, but today they've been magnified 1,000 times over. Look around and it's almost impossible not to compare. Someone has a better car, a larger house, a more successful career, or what looks like a happier relationship. And then the voice inside us begins whispering again. If they have it, why don't you? Why are you still behind? Seneca warned about this trap centuries ago. He observed that envy was like a poison, quietly corroding our ability to appreciate our own life. He said that we blind ourselves to what we already possess, because we're too busy staring at what others hold in their hands. In his eyes, envy was worse than poverty, because at least poverty has limits, but envy has none. Think of a man with a modest fortune. He lives in a small but comfortable home. He eats well, and he has enough to support his family. By almost any measure, he is fortunate, but he glances across the street and sees a neighbor with a vast estate, servants rushing about, and banquets every evening. Suddenly his own fortune feels small. He grows resentful, restless, dissatisfied. What he doesn't realize is that the neighbor sitting inside his palace might be staring back at him, envying the freedom of a simpler life, one without endless obligations, without the constant stress of maintaining such wealth. Each man envies the other, and neither finds peace. The Romans struggled with this disease of comparison. But if Seneca were alive today, he would probably say our modern world has made it even worse. Social media has turned envy into a constant hum in the background of our lives. We scroll through highlight reels of people traveling to exotic places, buying expensive clothes, achieving success after success. Rarely do we see the struggle behind the scenes, the loneliness, the failure. Instead, we consume carefully curated fragments that convince us we're always falling behind. But Seneca would remind us that comparison is an illusion. He believed true wealth and success come not from measuring ourselves against others, but from living according to reason and virtue. To desire less and to desire wisely is to be free. Yet most of us can't resist the urge to keep looking sideways, to keep tallying who's ahead and who's behind, and in doing so we chain ourselves to dissatisfaction. But the illusion goes even deeper. Comparison doesn't just make us jealous of others, it also feeds into one of the most dangerous lies we tell ourselves, the lie of arrival. We convince ourselves that once we reach a certain milestone, everything will finally click into place. We tell ourselves, when I get that job, then I'll be happy. When I find the right partner, then I'll be complete. When I buy the dream house, then life will finally feel secure. It's the promise of the future, dangling in front of us like a carrot on a stick. The problem is, the finish line keeps moving. You may finally land the job you dreamed of, but soon you're stressed about climbing higher. You might meet someone who fills your life with excitement. But after the early glow fades, ordinary problems return, and you start wondering if there's something or someone better out there. The dream house becomes just another place you live in, full of bills and responsibilities. Seneca described this pattern as a kind of blindness. He said that people spend their entire lives preparing to live, but never actually living. They're always looking to the next season, the next goal, the next debt stint. And as a result, they miss the life unfolding right now. You've probably felt this yourself. Think back to a time when you told yourself, if I can just get through this, things will be easier. Maybe it was school, maybe it was a rough wob, maybe it was a financial struggle. And when you got through it, yes, there was relief for a moment. But soon another challenge appeared. Another milestone appeared on the horizon. And once again you were back in the loop of waiting for life to start. Seneca would tell us that this illusion of arrival is one of the greatest thieves of joy, because it convinces us that happiness exists somewhere else, in some other time rather than in the present moment. He reminds us that the future is not guaranteed. Life is fragile. And while we're busy preparing to live, life itself slips away. The Stoic answer isn't to stop striving completely. Ambition has its place. Goals have their purpose. But the wisdom lies in not tying our peace of mind to those outcomes. Seneca believed that we should pursue what is within our control, virtue, reason, discipline, while holding loosely to external results. To live in such a way that even if the goals never come, or even if fortune turns against us, we can still say, this life is enough. But most people don't learn this until it's too late. They keep chasing, keep comparing, keep waiting for the big arrival that never comes. And then, at the end, they look back and realize that they were always preparing to live, but never actually lived. If comparison and the illusion of arrival weren't enough to keep us restless, the world we live in has built an entire system that thrives on our discontent. Modern society is structured in such a way that it wants us to feel content. In fact, it depends on our dissatisfaction, because every time we feel that something is missing, every time we sense that we're not enough, there's a product, a service, a brand waiting to promise relief. Walk through any city and you'll be surrounded by advertisements that whisper the same message in different disguises. You are incomplete, but this purchase will complete you. A new phone will make your life easier. A new car will make you more respected. A new outfit will make you more attractive. A vacation will make you feel alive again. And for a moment it works. The thrill of buying something new gives us a spark of excitement, a temporary illusion of progress, but it fades quickly. And soon we're back where we started, restless, hungry, searching for the next fix. This cycle is no accident. Entire industries have been built around the careful cultivation of dissatisfaction. Companies spend billions studying human psychology, discovering how to press the exact buttons in our minds that trigger desire. They know that you feel content, you won't buy. But if you feel a subtle sense of lack, a quiet fear of being left behind, you'll open your wallet. Seneca saw the same thing happening in Rome, long before social media and billboards existed. The wealthiest Romans obsessed over exotic luxuries, ivory furniture, purple-dyed robes, fountains spilling in endless feasts. They believed these things would set them apart, make them enviable, grant them the peace they secretly longed for. But Seneca, who witnessed it all firsthand, knew the truth. Abundance didn't bring calm. It brought more craving. He wrote that the more luxuries one acquires, the more restless and fragile one becomes, because now there's even more to lose. And that's the irony. The more society gives us, the less satisfied we become. Abundance doesn't calm the storm, it feeds it. Imagine someone lost at sea, surrounded by water, but dying thirst. That's us in the modern age, surrounded by abundance, but still parched for contentment. But the Stoics didn't stop at diagnosing the problem. They offered an alternative, a way to step out of the cycle. And it wasn't about renouncing life completely, or retreating to a cave in the mountains. It was about cultivating an inner freedom, a mindset that could remain steady no matter how much or how little one had. For Seneca, the key was learning the art of enough. To him, wealth was not measured in coins or possessions, but in the ability to look around at what you already have and feel urgent need for more. He argued that a poor man who is content is richer than a king who is enslaved by greed. This wasn't just abstract philosophy, it was meant to be practiced. Seneca recommended exercises that could shift our perspective. One of his favorite practices was voluntary discomfort, spending a few days living with less, eating plain food, wearing simple clothes, sleeping on the floor. The point wasn't to punish yourself, but to remind yourself that you can survive, and even find peace, without luxuries. That way, if life ever strips those comforts away, you won't collapse in despair. You'll already know that your happiness never truly depended on them. Another Stoic tool is gratitude. Seneca encouraged reflection on what we already possess, instead of obsessing over what we lack. Gratitude grounds us in the present moment, pulling our attention away from the endless vice, toward the simple blessings right in front of us. The Stoics believed that even the smallest things, breathing, sunlight, friendship, could be enough to anchor a peaceful life, if we learn to see them clearly. And then there's the practice of simplicity. Seneca often contrasted the frantic luxury of Rome with the calm of a modest, disciplined life. He wasn't saying we should all abandon comfort completely, but he believed we should stop worshiping it. The more we crave extravagance, the more fragile we become. But the more we embrace simplicity, the harder it is for fortune to disturb us. It's important to notice that Seneca didn't argue we should never strive for improvement or goals. He wasn't against achievement, but he warned against tying our peace of mind to those outcomes. If you can be calm whether you succeed or fail, if you can feel whole whether you have abundance or very little, then you've achieved something far greater than wealth or status. You've achieved freedom. And this is where philosophy becomes more than just abstract thought. Because what Seneca and the Stoics are really offering is not just a critique of human desire, but a way of living differently. They're showing us how to toe off the treadmill, how to reclaim our inner life from the constant demands of the external world. Of course, this is easier said than done. Even Seneca himself admitted that he struggled with desire and wealth. He was not a perfect example. He was a man trying to apply wisdom in the middle of woes, and maybe that's the point. It's not about achieving perfect contentment, but about practicing it over and over until it becomes more natural than the endless craving we've been taught to obey. Even if we strip away the illusions, even if we stop comparing, even if we practice gratitude and simplicity, there is still something we cannot escape. A truth that Seneca understood well. Human beings are restless. Is nature. Desire never fully disappears. The hunger for more may grow quieter with discipline, but it never goes silent. This can sound discouraging at first. If we'll never be fully content, then what's the point of trying? But that's exactly where Stoicism shows its strength. The Stoics didn't promise a life free from struggle or desire. They promised a life where those forces no longer dominate us, where we learn to live alongside them without being ruled by them. Seneca often reminded his students that the human mind will always reach beyond itself. It is in our nature to imagine, to hope, to want. To deny that would be to deny what makes us human. But he also argued that philosophy gives us the tools to tame these impulses, to keep them in their proper place. Instead of being dragged by every craving, we can observe it, examine it, and choose whether to follow it. This balance is important, because discontent, in small doses, has its uses. It can push us to grow, to improve, to create. If humans were perfectly content with what they had, we might never have built civilizations, written poetry, or explored the stars. Our restlessness drives progress. But when discontent consumes us, when we let it define our lives, it turns progress into slavery. We work endlessly, not out of love for life, but out of fear that we'll never be enough. Seneca's wisdom points us toward a middle path. He doesn't ask us to extinguish desire, but to govern it, to stop letting it dictate our worth, to learn to say, "This is sufficient, what I already have is enough." And then, if fortune offers more, we can accept it without clinging. If fortune takes it away, we can release it without despair. But here's the catch. This is not something you achieve once and then hold forever. Contentment is not a destination. It's a practice, a daily discipline. Each morning we wake up to the they whisper of the mind. Just a little more, just a little further. And each day, we have to answer it with wisdom. Some days we succeed, other days we don't. That's the human condition, and that's okay. Seneca's words echo through centuries because they confront us with a truth we'd rather avoid. Life is not waiting to be perfect. Life is happening now in all its imperfections, and the person who delays living until everything feels complete will find at the end that they never truly lived at all. And so, we arrive at the closing thought. Humans may never be fully content with what they have. That restless hunger is part of our design. But that doesn't mean peace is impossible. It simply means peace comes from a different place, not from accumulation, not from comparison, not from chasing milestones, but from cultivating a mind that can be still even when the world is restless. Seneca leaves us with a timeless reminder. True wealth is not found in having everything you desire, but in desiring little. The richest person is not the one with the largest fortune, but the one who can look at their life, however modest, and say, "This is enough." So maybe the real challenge isn't to silence our discontent forever, but to recognize it for what it is. A companion, sometimes helpful, often distracting, but never the master of our lives, unless we allow it. And if we can reach that point, then even in a world built to keep us chasing, we can step aside, breathe deeply, and finally begin to live.